it is Lanickia, and I am coming to you with another episode of General Hospital. This one is for Friday, March the 11th, 2022. Okay, so it was a scale of 1 to 10. It was solid. It was really solid. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the video, to the channel. Okay, so just wrapping up people, because actually I like pretty much everyone who was on today, so there is no people I was more interested in, but just wrapping up everyone. I'm going to start with Jake and Elizabeth and Cam. So they're all together, they're having breakfast, which they rarely get to do now, and so Elizabeth's really happy about that, but she's talking to her boys about how Finn is not going to be in the picture anymore because she just wants to spend time and focus on them. And they're saying, they're like, okay, they want her to be happy and everything, but she just like, I want to focus on you guys. And speaking of that, she tells Jake that she thinks it would be good for him to see a therapist. And he was like, what, you think I'm a psycho or something? And she was like, no, I just think it would be really great for you to talk to someone. You've dealt with a lot of loss. They loved Franco. And you lost Jason. It's just a lot. And but what Elizabeth's not saying is she think he did the painting, and he tells her, you think I did that painting even though I'm telling you I didn't. And she said, baby, I just want you to talk to someone. So he was like, he said no, and then he got a message to his phone about a link, which y'all know it has to do with Cam. And he says, my friend is asking me, is this you? And Cam is like saying, don't look at it and all that. And Jake was like, weirdo. So Jake goes to his room so that Elizabeth can talk to Cam. And she's like, what's going on? And he was like, Mom, I'm so embarrassed. I can't even look at you and tell you this. So she has to, he slides down on the wall to the floor, and she has to turn her back. And then he tells her that he was embarrassed because it's a video of him and Joss, being together for the first time. And it went everywhere. And she's like, oh, Cam. And he was like, I feel bad for myself, but I feel even worse for Josh. He said, because I'm a guy. I'm getting high fives. Everybody's like, ooh, go guy. They're being guys about it. They're like, yeah, you got with her and all, you know how guys are. And he says, but there's such a double standard because she's being called out of her name about it, It's YouTube. I can't say. But he was like, she's being called out of her name and everything about it, and that's such a double standard. And Elizabeth said, I know, baby, but, y'all will get through this. Have you talked to her? And he said, no, she turned her phone off, so I haven't got to talk to her today or anything. And she was like, well, you can check up. You can go and check up on her and everything. And so then then Jake comes out, and she does get Jake to agree to go see the therapist. Begrudgingly. I mean, he don't want to, but he was like, okay, fine, let's do it. So when they go to the hospital to see a therapist, she sees Finn, but they see each other, but Jake is coming, and so she just keeps her attention focused on Jake, and that's how it went with Cam, Elizabeth, and Jake. So speaking of Finn, we see that he's talking to Chase, and he's just updating him on everything with Elizabeth, and he tells him Elizabeth, is wanting to focus on her children, and right now she doesn't really have time for him. And he's like, isn't that, because they think that Jake is the one who was is the stalker for Elizabeth, and he was like, isn't that overreacting that she completely cut you off? And he was like, well, if you know what Jake has been through. And then I guess he tells Jake, we don't see him tell him, but when they come back, he says, man, that's a lot to go through, for a kid his age. And so, Finn is like, I understand why Elizabeth, wants to focus on her children. And so then they start talking about Brook Lynn. And Chase says, I haven't heard from Brook Lynn. He's like, I sent her a how are you? And she just sent the thumbs up, and Finn is like, listen, if you want her, go after her. Like, you millennials not communicating and just saying what you want and everything. Like, if you want her, go after her. And he was like, you're right, okay. But he was like, she's still out of town and everything. And he was like, okay, but don't not go shoot your shot because you feel like she would turn you down or anything like that, or whatever. So speaking of Brook Lynn, we go over and we see that she has made it home, and Michael and Willow are there, And so she talks to them, and they're just like, how are you? And she was like, it was good to be home, it was good to see family, to be with her mom. And they said, well, how are things, how are you going to adjust to this new life? And she's just like, I don't know what my life will be without Bailey. And Chase was such a great friend, and she speaks really positively and highly of Chase. And so Willow's like, well, I'm happy you're back. And and I'll talk to you guys later. But she had to go off because she has to do something with her nursing. um and so while she's gone, Michael and Brook Lynn really have time to bond, and he tells her that he went over to speak to Chase, and that they've made up and everything. And they're not friends, but they maybe one day they can get back to being more, friends, or some kind of friendship. And she said, that's good. And then Michael said, so what's going on with you and Chase? Because the way you just talked to him, you like him. And she was like, it doesn't matter. No, I enjoy being single. Everybody doesn't want to be a family or whatever. And he was like, Brook Lynn, you loved Bailey. You and Chase bonded over Bailey. You were around each other all the time. And the way you speak about him, it sounds like there's more to it. And she was like, even if there was more to it, um, what am I supposed to tell him? I like you. Like, she was like, I don't want to. I don't have a lot of friends, and I don't want to ruin this friendship with Chase. And I get it. I get what she's saying and everything. Even though I like Brook Lynn and Chase, so that's one of the reasons. Like, this was a good storyline for me personally, because I like those two and I want to see them together. So she finally tells Michael that yes, she does like Chase, but she's afraid to go after it. And he says, just go for it. You never know until you go. So because of that, she's like, Michael leaves, and she's like, oh my gosh. So she starts thinking about of how her and Chase got close. So they show, over the time how they got close. Now, speaking of Chase, he's at the hospital because he just got done visiting Finn. And he sees Willow, and Willow's like, hey, Chase, sorry I can't talk. I'm on my nursing duties. And he's like, okay, cool, or whatever. And then she says, I talked to, I don't know how they brought up Brook Lynn, but she said something about, I talked to Brook Lynn and she's doing well. And, and he's like, oh, you talked to her on the phone? And she said, no, she's here. She's at the house. And so then we see Chase go over to the house as Brook Lynn is, thinking about everything that happened between them. And she has his number pulled up, and she was like, what do I text? And Chase comes in with a box, and he says, hi. He got a box because they had to move out. So he has a box to make her be like, as an excuse to come over. And that's how it ended with them. So going from that, we'll go to Esme. So Ava and Nicholas are having dinner and breakfast, and they're talking about their vow renewal and everything, and how they just got to keep Victor close, make him think, it is what it is. And so as they're talking, Esme just she just sits herself down and said, oh yeah, I heard y'all were doing it small from Laura. I heard it's going to be real small. And they're just looking like, okay, have a seat. And then she does apologize to Ava again about, she just tell them she's sorry about, she was in on that, and she's glad that Nicholas and Spencer are making leeway. But she tells them, I don't know about inviting Spencer, because they tell her, they instead of making a small vow renewal, just the two of them, they want family there and everything. And because remember, her job is to break up Nicholas and Ava. And she was like, I don't know about, inviting Spencer, if he'll come. And Nicholas was like, me and Spencer are getting closer. And she was like, I know. But Ava was like, oh, it's me. He still doesn't, care for me. And then Ava gets a phone call, so she has to leave. And Esme tells Nicholas, you're not what the man I thought you would be. And he was like, oh, I'm sure if Spencer talked about me, then it was all bad. And she was like, no, he said y'all were really close. And everything when he was younger, and it was just the two of y'all against everything. And Nicholas was like, yeah, we were really close. And then he faked his death. And, all that kind of stuff happened, but he's glad that they're getting back together. But he was like, if if Spencer is giving me these glowing reviews, then that must mean what is it about me that wasn't what you thought it was? And she said, you're so focused on Ava or whatever, but I think you have um enough love to focus on everyone. And he says, I do. I just wish Spencer would see that. And because Spencer said he's focused and he was single minded, but Esme said, I see that you can focus and have enough love for everyone. And she says, I've been talking to Spencer, trying to get him to be closer to you or whatever. And he was like, I appreciate that. And I'm like, Nicholas, you can't see this girl is playing you. But okay, we're gonna go with this. So then she just tells him, I could talk to Spencer for you and, just give him a heads up and try to soften him up about when you come to him about the vow renewal and everything. And at this point, Ava comes back and she said the phone call was about Ryan. And he was like, and Nicholas like, what about Ryan Chamberlain? And Esme grips her hand under the table because they're talking about he's psycho. And she says, Kevin said that he's still not speaking and walking and all that kind of stuff, and he's still in the same state he was in. And they're like, hopefully he stays there. And Esme is like fuming, and she's gripping her hand so hard. But Ava's like, she had an appointment to go to, and Nicola was like, I'll go. And Esme was like, well, I was really hoping that we could talk, continue our conversation. And she's like, and Nicholas is like, okay. And Ava's like, just walk me out or whatever, and then you can come back and finish with her. And so Esme was like, okay, I'll be here. But speaking of, so Esme, now we go to Joss and Carly, and Joss tells Carly, at first she didn't want to tell her, but she was like, Mom, I can't go to school ever again. And Carly's like, what's going on? And she says, Mom, when we were at Sonny's cabin, Cam and I took our relationship to the next level, and I can't believe I was so stupid, and I can't believe this is happening. And Carly, I was like, even though I know what she was talking about, it did sound like it. Carly was like, oh, are you pregnant? And she was like, no, we use protection and everything. But she said, Mom, somebody had a camera and they sent it to everyone in the class. She told her what happened at the class about the phones going off and then being on the screen. And Carly was like, baby, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And she said, Mom, did you think Sonny had a camera? And she was like, no, girl. And he didn't have a camera. And Josh was like, I didn't think he would. And then she said, Esme accused Trina of it. And Carly said, that's something Esme would do. But you don't think Trina did. But Josh is like, well, Trina was mad and she feels left out and she was blackout drunk. But Carly was like, I just don't see her doing it. And Josh was like, no, I don't think she did it. But they really do think it was Esme. But Josh is just embarrassed. And she's like, everybody knows what happened. So Carly was like, I'm going to get Spinelli on it. And she does. And he takes it down off the public websites and all that. But Trina was like, oh my gosh, how many people have it saved as private or whatever? And she tells Carly, I can't do this. Like, I'm not strong enough to do this. And, I'm not like you, Mom. I'm not strong. Because Carly is telling her, you'll get through this. And people will forget. And life will keep going. And she's like, Mom, I'm not like you. I'm not strong. And Carly was like, yeah, you're stronger than me. You're not like me. You're stronger. And so she just gives her encouragement. And they go to Metro Court to grab something to eat. And when they get there, of course, Esme is there. And so they go up to Esme. And Esme is like, Joss, I'd be so embarrassed if I was there. I couldn't come in public. You're so strong and all that. And she was about to leave. And Carly was like, you're not going anywhere. Sit down. They know Esme did this. Like, girl, nobody's believing that Trina did this. But that was General Hospital, guys. I still don't like this whole tape that they're doing with Joss and all that. I just don't like it. But it is what it is. They've done it now. We're not the writers. They've done it now. So we'll see how that goes. But y'all tell me what you think. I'm really excited about Brook Lynn and Chase. I really want them together. But y'all tell me what you think. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I will see you Monday for another recap and review of the General Hospital.